Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Exodus chapter 35, you have Moses instructing the people to get busy about constructing the various items that would be included in the tabernacle. In verse 10 of Exodus 35, he says, "Let every skillful man among you come and make all that the Lord has commanded." And then he goes and gives a list of the items that would be needed for the construction of the tabernacle. It talks about the tent and its covering, the ark and its poles, the mercy seat. He mentions the lampstand, the altar of incense is mentioned, the altar of burnt offering is mentioned. All these main items that we think about when we think about the tabernacle. But what I really love is something else that is mentioned, and it's found in verse 18, where he says, "The pegs of the tabernacle and the pegs of the court and their cords." That is, the tent pegs are mentioned as well. In this long list of these beautiful items, these holy pieces of furniture that would be included in the tabernacle, with all these different coverings that were elaborately woven together, you have the tent pegs. And somebody, somewhere, was in charge of making the tent pegs. And we don't know much about who this person probably was. Maybe that was their only job, was to make the tent pegs, or maybe it was added to something else that they were doing. But nonetheless, they were in charge of making the tent pegs. And some might think, well, that's just something we pass over. We don't really think about it too much. They're just tent pegs. Let's get on with talking about the priestly garments or the altar of incense or something like that. But they're listed here, and they're listed here because they're important. And they're important because they're a part of the dwelling place of God. And as we are ministering to the church, which is the dwelling place of God today, we should never pass over or think little of the tent pegs. As we're ministering to the church, there are some cases where you might have people who are doing ministry in a very visible way. These are the people that perhaps you think of when you think about people who are really ministering to the church. You think of perhaps the person who's given the message, the preacher, or you might think of the person who's leading worship or something like that. The people that you when you think about church and you think about ministering to the church, those are the type of people that you think of, and that's the type of ministries that you think of. But there's also the tent pegs, the ministry of the tent pegs. That is, the people who do things that aren't as visible, the ministries that people are involved in that are behind the scenes, that even if people know what they're doing, they don't really perhaps give much weight to those things. They don't really see them as all that valuable. But they're included. They're a part of the overall work that's being done for the building up of God's people. And so they never should be undervalued. And so if we are, or as we think about the church and we think about our ministry to the church, there's two things that we can reflect on as we think about these tent pegs. And that is, if we are the ones in charge of the tent peg, that is, if we're giving perhaps what we think are menial tasks or things that aren't really that important, we should never think that. The person who is making these tent pegs, I would hope, was thinking, they're just tent pegs, but boy, they are a part of the dwelling place of God, and I'm going to make the best tent pegs I could ever make. And if we are perhaps given maybe what we think are menial tasks, things that aren't really that important, we should say, they are important. Anything that we do for the benefit of the church is important. And I'm going to do it with all my heart. I'm going to do it the best that I can so that I can glorify God even in these tent pegs. And the other side of it is that if we are the people who perhaps notice or see people who are involved in the ministry of the tent pegs, that we value those people, that we don't think, well, they're dispensable. They just are involved in these tasks that really aren't that important. Let's focus more on these other activities that are more visible, that are more what we think are more influential and things like that. No, we should never do that. We should value each and every member that's contributing to the building up of God's dwelling place, the church, and raise them all up to say, you know what, no matter what you are doing, no matter what work, no matter what gifting you have for the benefit of the church, it's important. Now, that's what the Apostle Paul taught the church at Corinth. They thought that the big thing was if you could speak in tongues. But Paul says no, and he likens it to the human, the human body. He says, every part of the body is important. And even if the smallest member suffers, the whole body suffers with it. We should value each and every member because they all play a part, and they're all important. And one person might be the eye, then another person might be the finger, but we're all a part of the body of Christ, and all of us are valuable in whatever part we play. So today, let's be focused on that. As we're going to church today, as many of us are probably going to church today, let's think about this. Let's think about the tent peg ministry. Let's think about those people who are behind the scenes, who are doing those tasks that maybe everybody else doesn't want to do or doesn't think about doing, and value those people. And if we are those people, let's hold our heads high as we think about the fact that we are able to contribute to the building up of God's beautiful and wonderful dwelling place, the church. So let's think about these things, reflect on them as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. I hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.